Oklahoma Association of Realtors. This is episode 179 of Talking Real. We're back here in the studio. Nabil, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Got my little red juice. Yeah, doing well.
Not sponsored by Red Juice today, but appreciate you guys coming back this week.
Although, if we want to be,
we could reach out. Red Juice.
well,
But,
it's Trader Joe's.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, let's specify.
I'd be happy to be sponsored by Trader Joe's. That'd be great. Man, thank you guys for coming back this week. We took last week off. We were out with our association executives from across the state having a retreat, basically, and going through a bunch of work-related stuff there. So, we didn't get a podcast out last week, so that's what it's going to be.
It felt kind of weird.
It was.
We talked about it. We're like, man, we're not going to get it done.
I know.
It's
the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. But we're back this week, and Nabil, you shared an article with me.
Many articles.
But this one in particular was very relevant to our interests. That was this cyber attack, ransomware on a company called Cloudstar. It's actually been a couple of weeks now. It was like July 16th is when this happened, I think, July 15th, 16th. They got hit by ransomware. We've talked about that in the past, where for those that maybe don't remember, ransomware is a malware that somebody's done something. They've probably opened an attachment or went to a website, something along those lines that they should not have, that was infected. And essentially that malware goes all over their system and it encrypts all their files.
Right.
So this is a big deal because it encrypts them, and then because it's ransomware, they say, we'll be happy to unencrypt them if you send us, X dollars,
right,
Bitcoin or something like that. The lessons will do crypto type stuff.
I just thought of a funny thought. It'd be funny if they made him do like a little random dare. It wouldn't make the situation any better, but
It's something different though.
Yeah. I want you to do the cinnamon challenge on YouTube.
Yeah, right? It could be anything. But this is what they do. They encrypt all your files, everything, so you can't access them until you pay their fee, which is obviously a real problem. And in some cases, that fee can be substantial. We've seen millions of dollars paid out in specific, like one instance could have been millions of dollars to pay that out. We've seen everything from law firms to
pipelines,
healthcare, and all kinds of different things.
Right.
It's everything.
Right. And there's been we've talked about this on and off often, but there's been, it feels like a flurry of those recently.
Yeah.
Right. And it's multiple industries, like you said, that are being affected. It's not just targeting real estate or anything like that. But in this case, Cloudstar actually did affect the real estate industry.
It did.
Because a lot of their clients were title companies, and because the title companies couldn't access their documents or information or data, the transactions were being delayed, and as we all know, that could be a very big snowball effect.
Yeah, because Cloudstar is one of the biggest cloud services in title insurance, and they work with something like 42,000 different title and settlement professionals. So
That's
this is substantial.
a lot.
This is substantial, and it sounds like they handled it correctly, because they put up the status page. And they say, here's what's going on. We've been hit by a ransomware attack, which may mean that you can't do all of your settlement stuff because they don't have access to their files, they don't have access to their services.
Right.
And they started working with a third-party forensic expert to try to determine what all has been hit, how deep does this go,
where did it come from, like how do you get ahead of it, or behind it.
They started working with law enforcement to try to track down what was going on there, and they also even started negotiating with the ransom demands.
Right.
Whoever it was that caused this, they started working with them, and they started doing that immediately.
Any good bargain shopper will tell you, don't take the first offer.
Yes, right. So they started negotiating, but this went on and on. Like I said, July 16th was when this was hit. They kept posting updates. July 19th, still not resolved. July 20th, still not resolved, but they're continuing to work on it. July 23rd, still not resolved. July 28th, Still not completely resolved. By July 28th, they'd at least figured out maybe there was some path with certain of their clients to, in individual specific instances, they would have a path to recover data. So 12 days after the attack, they finally begun to start recovering some data by working with individual clients. Not, we've resolved this whole issue, we're good to go.
Right.
And again, even at that time, they were just starting to look at, okay, which of our systems can we bring back online to make sure that they're clean? And so even as of today, we don't have anything necessarily all clear. We don't know. I mean,
Right.
but it's still just an ongoing issue.
And I mean, this isn't something like if my personal computer got hit by ransomware, right? Most of my stuff is backed up on a hard drive or the cloud. So I would lose, depending on what that time gap was before my last backup, that's all I would lose. And I could just wipe my computer, get rid of the ransomware, we're back, right? But this isn't just as simple as wiping the data and bringing back files, because because once something this sophisticated hits them, it goes through their layers and it's just getting their backups and their backups. And they have to figure out what file was affected to be able to be like, okay, we'll purge this file so that everything else, then we can restore.
Right.
So they can't just reset it, because then it might just happen again.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you don't necessarily know when the infection occurred,
right?
Because these things sort of sit dormant, right? They will progress through the system, they will attach themselves to all these files before they go to encrypt it, and then once it hits, then it hits. But when you don't know, it doesn't mean that once that encryption attack happens, that's the day that it got infected. Like, you don't necessarily
could have been a year before that.
Right.
You never know.
So they can't say, oh, we'll just go to last week's backup, because maybe last week's backup was also affected. So that's why they have to go through this entire process to figure it out, which is, as you can imagine, a nightmare. Not just, Nabil mentioned the sort of the domino effect this can have of closings were impacted. They were sort of putting out this warning that you may not have access to everything, so this could be a problem for doing all of your settlements and closings, which obviously affects the consumer, but all of their clients. Again, just the time this took, and we're talking weeks for them to get this handled. This is not a quick thing to deal with.
Right. I imagine being on the other side, you're probably so hopeless, right? I gotta wait for my data to be back to me.
Yeah.
Ransomware is no joke, especially when like all our lives are digital, right? Think about how we do anything. 99% of those things, unless you're like doing some physical activity, that's also probably potentially a hybrid of digital and physical. So it's
I mean, we're just so intertwined. We can't do work without access to our data and our information, all this. So, we talk about this with some regularity. We caution about how to deal with these issues. And it just presents another opportunity for us to talk about that. And we've done episodes before on the different things you can do for cybersecurity, like using password keepers, like being careful about what you're clicking on, all those all those kinds of different things that we know that we need to actually put in practice. All it takes is one person. So, especially if you're a broker, you got to think about your data files and everything else that this could hit, and what are you going to do if it happens.
Right.
One thing to keep in mind is, does your E&O insurance have a cybersecurity coverage on top of it? That's something common now, but not all of them are doing it. But you might want to check on that as well to see if you've got any kind of insurance coverage.
Probably a worthwhile investment.
Absolutely. But, again, Nabil and I have talked about it a lot, but we also want to bring somebody else in to talk about it, because, I don't think it can hurt to hear it from multiple sources and maybe a little bit different take on it.
Right. And so we brought in Deb Thoman, who is also going to be one of the speakers at the OAR Annual Conference Stand Out, which is September 12th to the 14th at the Omni in Oklahoma City. Head over to oarconference.com, check out all that information, and sign up. She is going to talk there about cybersecurity and being safe online. But we brought her in today to kind of do a little sneak peek.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to get that different perspective, as you were talking about.
Absolutely. So she's got some great information today. And it'll give you a little bit of a taste of what she's going to talk about at conference, but also with just some very helpful information today.
Yeah.
Her class is on cybersecurity and human behavior, so she goes through a lot of tips and tricks and things that you can do to stay safe, by how you handle yourself offline and online. So it's a really important class for people to consider checking out when it comes conference time. And you got to be at conference to do it. So again, like Nabil said, go to oarconference.com and get registered because it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a great time. And Deb is going to give us some fantastic information.
So let's get to her.
Let's do it.